Happy Fitness Friday, everyone!
Happy Fitness Friday, guys! Today we are happy to be here to talk to you about sleep for optimal health and fitness, a very important topic.
Yes, it is. And I am Dr. Ayla Donlin.
I'm Emily Sopo.
We're your Myzone Master Trainers. I hold my doctoral degree in educational leadership, and Emily and I are both trained in kinesiology, Emily in exercise science, myself in sport and exercise psychology. We're certified personal trainers, certified group fitness instructors. We love using the Myzone system for our own workouts. In fact, we both worked out this morning using Myzone, and we love using Myzone with our clients and bringing you fresh content every Friday.
Yes, absolutely. As you guys are tuning in, tell us where you're coming in from. Hi, Andra, and give us a little hello. We love to say hi.
Yes.
And you can also learn more about Myzone at myzone.org and by checking out Myzone on all sorts of social media platforms. You found Facebook or YouTube if you're here right now. All of our old broadcasts are housed on the Myzone Moves YouTube channel, so you can check them out there.
Yes, you can also check out our podcast on iTunes and Google Play. That's the Myzone Moves podcast. Good morning, Kimberly. Good morning, Coach B and Trish.
Hey.
We love when you guys say hello and Happy Fitness Friday, because then we know who's tuning in, and make sure that you're leaving comments or asking questions. As much as we can address live, we absolutely will. Then we'll always go back on and address further comments or questions later on.
Yes. Yeah. I have a quick assignment for all of you. If you know someone who is always tired, go ahead and tag them in the comment section below this post, because this is all about sleep and everybody needs sleep. We're going to talk about why it's important, how much sleep we need, the dangers of maybe not getting enough sleep or being sleep deprived, and then our tips for sleeping, how to get a good night's sleep.
And I have always found that whether people are good sleepers or sleep deprived, everyone is always interested in and fascinated by information about sleep. So get ready, ladies and gentlemen, because there's a lot of great information coming your way.
Yes.
Hey, Michael.
So let's start out with just a general recommendation, and then we'll break it down and kind of come back to this tip later on in today's broadcast. But the National Sleep Foundation recommends 7 to 9 hours of sleep per night for most healthy adults. I want you to keep that in mind, because then when we talk about sleep deprivation, you'll know that they are not getting the individuals who are sleep deprived are not getting those 7 to 9 hours of sleep per night. But in society, we often hear like, I'll sleep when I'm dead, or you have to really hustle and work so hard.
Right.
If you're getting enough sleep, it's almost looked down upon in some circles. And my friends, that is not the case. That is not the healthy way of looking at sleep and looking at how hard you need to be working all of the time, because sleep allows us to work harder.
Yes, and I think, if I can hop in real quick, I think those of us who are fitness professionals or health and wellness coaches in some form, we have the opportunity to kind of change the narrative around sleep. So we can be encouraging our clients and talking about getting a good night's sleep and how good we feel as a result of that, or how it's benefited our mental state or our physical performance. So we have the power to change the narrative around sleep.
Make an early bedtime cool again.
Yeah, make getting good rest cool again.
Yeah. All right, let's start with sleep and health. Hey, Michelle.
Yay.
So research has indicated that sleep is incredibly important to our health for a lot of reasons. And the research does talk about sleep deprivation in different ranges, like what is sleep deprivation. So I wasn't able to find one consensus. If you do know the national or the world's accepted title of or definition of sleep deprivation, let us know. But from the research that I looked at, the definition of sleep deprivation ranged from getting less than 7 to 9 hours recommended for adults to even missing sleep for an entire night. So keep that in mind, that some of these studies looked at different forms of sleep deprivation or different levels of sleep deprivation. Let's talk about some of the implications of sleep deprivation on our appetite. First, decreased production of something called leptin. Leptin is a hormone that signals our body that we are getting or are full. So if we have decreased production of that, then we're not going to feel full like we would if we had enough. It also causes increased production of ghrelin, which is a hormone that signals hunger. So literally our body is telling us that we're hungry even if we're not hungry. No good. Can you imagine if you thought you were doing everything right, but your body was telling you, like, you are still hungry, keep eating. We don't want that.
Yeah.
What's really interesting as well is that when we are sleep deprived, the part of our brain that focuses on rewards tends to be more activated, and the part of our brain that focuses on complex decision making isn't as active. So when we're faced with a really nice salad versus a really lovely donut,
yeah,
what are we gonna pick?
It might not make the best choice if we're sleep deprived.
Definitely not. So those are direct impacts on our appetite.
Yes, that is such good information. Yeah. And Michael, you had asked, or you had kind of made a comment that you had been in the military for a while and now you're really only able to sleep for chunks of 4 hours at a time. Mm-hmm. You're going to hear us talking about circadian rhythm, and that's your body's natural rhythm, sleep-wake cycle, hormone release cycle. So you've probably developed a brand new circadian rhythm, and I think if you notice that there are negative effects of only sleeping for 4 hours at a time, then that's something that I would recommend that you approach your physician about and maybe ask for a referral to a specialist. But if your body functions well in that way, and you've established that rhythm, then I think you've got to go with what serves your body best. But it's always good to call in the experts for some additional input.
That's a good point.
Yeah. Okay. So additional implications of sleep deprivation on our stress hormones and metabolism. So this is kind of related to what Emily was just talking about with appetite hormones. So when we're sleep deprived, then we can have an increase in the production of cortisol, which we're probably very all familiar with as the stress hormone. You hear it labeled as such. Mm-hmm. And research has demonstrated that sleep deprivation can lead to elevated levels the evening after, or early in the evening after a night of sleep deprivation. And that's when typically cortisol is decreasing as your body is preparing to go back into sleep again. So that becomes problematic because that causes a decrease in our insulin sensitivity. And that means our cells in our body aren't able to take in and use glucose for energy as well as they're supposed to. So that can lead to some long-term implications, including a risk for type 2 diabetes. So there's this cascade effect that has some pretty serious implications. And research has demonstrated that just one night of sleep deprivation is enough to impact our insulin sensitivity. So this isn't, typically we talk about cortisol issues in a chronic sense, that when we have elevated cortisol levels for a chronic period of time, that's when we really start to see a lot of health issues. But this research is saying that if you're sleep deprived for just one night, that's enough to impact your insulin sensitivity. So that's kind of a big deal.
Yeah, it definitely is. And if you guys want to learn more about this, before we move on, we're referring to research that is actually on the blog, on the Myzone.org website. So if you go to the Myzone.org website, scroll to the bottom, you'll see our faces, and you'll be able to check out our blog there, and everything is linked to the actual research that we use. So if you want to learn more about what we're talking about, then you are welcome to do so there.
Yeah, it's always great to go to the source yourself.
Yeah.
So before we move on, just a couple more things. Cortisol, of course, is important to our body's functions in the correct amount, but elevated levels, as you've read in some of our other blog posts, can have negative implications for our health, like influence on our metabolism, negative influence on our metabolism, our immune system, and brain function. So again, there's research in the blog that you can look at in terms of those negative implications of elevated cortisol levels. Other health implications of sleep deprivation, we have links to high blood pressure, cardiovascular disease, heart attack, obesity, stroke, cognitive dysfunction, and more. So sleep deprivation is real, and the negative effects of it are very real as well, associated with all of those negative things.
Right. We think we need to work so hard, but what's the point in working so hard if we're experiencing all these awful health implications?
Right.
So just a different kind of shift on how we look at sleep. So let's talk about sleep and performance. Now, this is performance related to exercise and sports. And research has demonstrated, a large body of research, that athletes and exercisers perform better when they have plenty of sleep. So that means that when they are going to bed at their normal hour, when they are waking up at their normal hour, and they're not, pushing the envelope in either direction to get less sleep. There's not really enough evidence to draw conclusions on exercise performance based on the actual research, but here are some things that they did find. So exercisers fatigue more quickly during exercise following sleep deprivation. You probably experienced that, I'm sure.
I have.
Yeah, I think I did like yesterday. So we fatigue much more quickly when we are sleep deprived.
Yeah.
We have decreased muscular strength, power, and speed after being sleep deprived. That's no good. Exercisers may experience an increase in heart rate during both submaximal and maximal exercise after being disrupted, having a disrupted night's sleep. And then exercisers have lower scores in reaction time, memory, decision making, and alertness after sleep restriction. So although there's much more research to be done, those are some of the findings that we discovered related to exercise and sleep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Long story short is, if you want to have a more productive exercise session, go into it having had a good night's sleep, right? All right. Additionally, previous research has shown that our rate of perceived exertion, our RPE, is higher with prolonged exercise if we don't get enough sleep. I've definitely experienced that as well. And as Myzone users, we're very much in tune with how our body feels during exercise and what our rate of perceived exertion is. And so it's going to feel off or funky if our rate of perceived exertion isn't matching what our heart rate profile is telling us on our tile. So if we don't get enough sleep, our workouts are going to feel harder, our rate of perceived exertion is going to be higher, and we're probably going to fatigue sooner. And I'll tell you what, I've experienced this firsthand. Emily and I are about to be at the Idea World Fitness Trade Show, July 19th through the 23rd, but the trade show is the 20th, 21st, and 22nd. We'll be at the Myzone booth. And I bring that up because in the past, at fitness trade shows, I've used the Myzone system while doing exercise, and I've noticed that as the days go on, my heart rate profile matches my rate of perceived exertion less and less because I'm sleep deprived as it goes on. So you can see, you can experiment, look at your activity calendar and kind of gauge, depending on your night's sleep, how well are you performing and how does it feel?
Yeah, absolutely. And if I may throw in a little tip, because that just reminded me, so we're fortunate, we're not sleeping in the same location all the time, but we will be at this fitness convention. So Ayla and I are strategic then about when are we going to exercise, what time are we most likely going to go to bed the night before. So if you have, you know, a partner or someone that is with you throughout the majority of your day, or when you are sleeping, then you can coordinate with them and try to get them on board with you know, getting into a normal sleep habit.
Right. Just like we need accountability partners for our exercise or our nutrition, sleep is a part of that too, and stress management.
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
Okay, so now we know the effects that sleep deprivation can have on our health and performance. So let's get into how we can lead better and healthier lives and get plenty of sleep. So this is starting into, if you're following along on the blogs, Sleep for Optimal Health and Fitness Part 2.
Yes.
So let's start with a few definitions, and then we're going to get into some specific tips for improving sleep quantity and quality. So definition: sleep quantity refers to how much sleep we get each night. And you heard Emily say at the beginning of this broadcast that the recommendations from the National Sleep Foundation and other organizations are that adults get 7 to 9 hours of sleep per night, and specifically that's age 26 to 64-year-olds. And then folks over 65 should aim to get 7 to 8 hours of sleep a night, pretty close to the same. Sleep quality refers to how well we sleep each night. And sleep quality essentially means that we're falling asleep quickly and that we're staying asleep, having little disruptions to our sleep, sleeping through the night.
Yes, absolutely. So we've developed 6 tips that we want to share with you for improving our sleep quantity and quality. And the first 2 are related to what we consume in our bodies. So number 1 is to limit caffeine intake. You've probably heard this before related to sleep, but it is important. So caffeine is a stimulant, and although I know I use it, I know that Ayla might use it as well, a little bit of caffeine throughout the day to get us through on occasion. But what tends to become an issue is if we're drinking coffee or consuming caffeine a little bit too close to our bedtime. Now, research has shown, and this was actually an article out of the Journal of Clinical Sleep Medicine, it recommended refraining from caffeine within 6 hours of your bedtime. So for a lot of us, that means like mid-afternoon, we got to put a cap on the caffeine consumption because it can disrupt sleep or cause us to fall asleep later on and not when we want to. This tip, or this 6-hour kind of rule, also applies to energy drinks, soda, and dark tea. So any caffeinated drink that we might be consuming.
That can kind of be a vicious cycle, I think, for people, right? Where you're not getting enough sleep, and so you rely on caffeine through the day, but then if you're drinking caffeine all day long, then you're probably influencing your sleep quality and quantity at night.
Yeah. And then your cortisol levels are higher, your insulin sensitivity is reduced. Oh boy, it's
not making good nutritional choices.
And then that coffee becomes like a huge frappuccino. Anyway,
right.
Stop the madness. You can see where we're going with this. It can get a little bit dangerous for our health.
Yeah.
So the second tip that we have is to cut back on alcohol before bed. Now, if you do consume alcohol, you may have experienced that 1 to 2 drinks in an evening might actually help you to go to bed a little bit more easily, which is awesome. But anything more than that can have negative effects on our sleep. So research recommends that we do try to limit our alcohol consumption in the evening to 1 or 2 drinks, and of course that's going to be really individual to each person. But of course, you know, if you do consume alcohol, you can play around with this and see what's going to work best for you. The issue is that too much alcohol in the night can disturb our sleep in the later part of our sleep pattern, which is responsible for letting us feel restored in the morning. It's also responsible for memory and those types of things, so something to keep a lookout for.
Yes. All right, other things to limit. So this would be tip number 3, limit exposure to light at night. And I've heard a few different sleep experts talk about this. And Emily cites in this blog a review article that's pretty new, January 2017, from Translational Psychiatry. And what this article is discussing is that a disruption of our circadian rhythm, and you heard me mention that before, our body's internal clock, which helps us in terms of hormone regulation and everything else. If we have a disruption in that circadian rhythm due to exposure to artificial light, that can be associated with mood disorders, metabolic dysfunction, and even certain kinds of cancer. It's a little bit scary.
Yeah.
So exposure to light at night decreases our production of melatonin, and that's a hormone that induces sleepiness. So if we're messing with that, then we don't get that signal from the hormone melatonin, which says it's time to get ready to sleep. So we're not just talking about a computer screen or cell phones late at night. This can be any lights. Even night lights have been shown to have adverse effects. So it's recommended that we sleep in almost a completely dark place. That's kind of a foreign concept for me, but my husband, who's a professional cyclist and very much values his sleep, decided to put blackout blinds in our bedroom. And I think I'm still getting used to that, but I will say, you know, I think it has helped in terms of limiting light exposure for sure. Yeah. So if you do need to look at artificial light in the evening, there's a few strategies that you can use. You can try to avoid blue light, which has the highest effect on melatonin suppression. And common sources of blue light are computers, smartphones, fluorescent lighting, and LED lighting. So opt for dim red lights or wear blue light blocking glasses. That's kind of fun if you want to do that.
Yeah, they're on Amazon.
Yeah, have fun. And even cell phone apps now have the opportunity have the ability to help you change the color of the light on your screen to be more nighttime friendly.
Yeah. The one that I use, it's built into the iPhone, and I can't remember exactly what it's called, but if you go under like system preferences, then you can look at the display and change it so that it is regulated by, like, when the sun goes down, the screen will turn slightly more yellow-red as opposed to that really bright blue. So you can check that out on your iPhone.
Yes, and I have that too, and that does seem to be helpful.
Yeah.
Okay, just the last thing about that, try to avoid looking at bright lights for at least an hour before bedtime if you can, and that can help keep our circadian rhythm on track.
Yes.
Tip number 4. Whereas you should limit your light exposure at night, it's a great idea to get out in the sun during the day. Light exposure in the evening suppresses melatonin, but light exposure during the day promotes nocturnal melatonin production. And then that's especially if the light is natural from the sun. and this allows us to fall asleep and stay asleep at night, so quantity and quality. And then there's research linking just as little as 10 to 15 minutes of sunshine exposure to health benefits, including increased melatonin production.
Yeah, so if you can get out and go for a little walk during the day to see the sun, that might be a good option.
Yeah, I'm trying to be more purposeful about that because my office doesn't have windows. Yours doesn't either. So it's really nice to just take a 10 to 15 minute walk outside to get, fresh air, sunlight. It's good.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, tip number 5 is to, wear your sunscreen. That's not tip number 5, but that's part of tip number 4. Tip number 5 is to establish a sleep schedule. So research has shown that having an irregular bedtime or an irregular wake time can cause less total sleep time and lower sleep quality. And you can imagine we talked about this throughout the broadcast today because it messes with our circadian rhythm. So this is not ideal. In an ideal world, we would go to bed and wake up at the same time every day, even on weekends. But folks, if that's not going to be realistic for you, I do really encourage you to make sure that you do have a regular bedtime and a regular wake time, at least during your work week.
Yeah.
All right, last but not least, and you knew we were going to talk about this, tip number 6 is to exercise. Working out is important to our sleeping, quality and quantity. So exercise is a very effective way to improve sleep quality and quantity for a lot of reasons. It clears our mind, it decreases mental emotional stress, those types of things, and it can relate to a better night's sleep because the increase in our body temperature when we exercise and then the subsequent decrease can induce sleepiness. So that can be helpful for us. What we recommend though is that you really find a schedule that's going to work for you because research is a little bit mixed on what time of day you need to exercise in order to get a good night's sleep. Some indicates that if you do vigorous intensity exercise right before bed, that you might be too hyped up and your body temperature is too high, you might have some cortisol pumping through, you might not be able to go to sleep, and then that can definitely mess with our sleep time. But if you found that you can exercise late at night, other research indicates that that might not be an issue. So it's sort of on an individual basis. We recommend that you find an exercise schedule and routine that's going to work best for you. And if you notice that you did a late night workout and then you couldn't sleep, of course, then maybe the next time you would change that up.
Yeah. And I can speak to that a little bit because usually I exercise in the morning and that's been my rhythm, and I think our body adjusts to that. And then I started teaching a Tuesday evening class, and it took me like probably a month or two because Tuesday nights I would exercise and I would be amped up, and so it would take me a while to fall asleep. But now I'm back in a better rhythm. So I think our body just takes a while to adjust too. So if you're an AM exerciser and you switch to PM, it'll probably take your body a while to adjust to that.
Yeah, absolutely. So folks, those are our tips for getting a good night's sleep. There's many more, and maybe we'll do a part 3 at some point, but those are some of the main tips that we have for you. We would love to know how this is working for you, so be sure to comment in the comment section below this broadcast. Let us know what tips and tricks do you use to get a good night's sleep, quantity and quality of sleep. And then we'll just keep in touch and make sure that you use the hashtags Myzone Moves and Effort Rewarded whenever you post about Myzone so that we can see what you're up to.
Absolutely. Next week, we will be broadcasting live from the IDEA World Fitness Convention in Las Vegas. If any of you are going to be at IDEA, Emily and I will be at the Myzone booth on the trade show floor, as I mentioned, on July 20th, 21st, and 22nd. And we're going to be playing a heart rate recovery game where you'll have an opportunity to win an incredible prize. We're going to draw a name on Saturday for our winner. And the game will last only about 10 to 12 minutes. So if you're around at IDEA, come say hi on the trade show floor, and we'll enter you into the heart rate recovery game.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you guys, as always, for tuning in to Fitness Friday. You can check out myzone.org to learn more about Myzone, and check out Myzone on all social media. And keep moving forward. I wasn't ready. Keep moving forward.
And keep moving forward.
Bye, guys.
Have a great weekend, everybody.
Bye. Bye, Gladys.